fast forward to January 11th. We're in 2001 now, and it's announced that JArrett did not win the bid, unfortunately. Fusion Media has come to an agreement to purchase World Championship Wrestling, and Eric Bischoff is in the catbird seat. When you get that news, is that exciting, motivating? I mean, WCW enjoyed their greatest success under Eric Bischoff, but a lot of people would point the finger at him and say he overspent on talent and didn't maybe manage the money the way your dad would have. From your standpoint, as a talent who's working there, Eric coming back, is that a good thing?
I immediately went to, yes. The short answer is we can point a finger, right or wrong. That's the boss. That's the
Yes.
thing. It immediately jumped off the page. But then I think that's obviously the first time I heard the name of Fusion Media, but Brian Badal.
Yeah.
I get that name. But I like, okay, who are the partners? What's their background? How are we going to navigate through this? But the big $1 million question is, okay, a media company's buying it. Where does Turner fit into this? What's the relationship moving forward? Which was unclear, because you got to remember, I'm used to brought up in the territory days, and nobody owned the TV stations, but there was a one boss. But then, the Turner company bought out NWA, and so they're the bosses. So is Eric the boss, and it's staying on TNT and TBS? Are we going from 2 shows to 1 show? What's the blueprint? What's moving forward? How are they going to cut expenses? Look, again, the business head is, who's going and who's staying, because what's going on right now is unsustainable, period.
Let's keep it going here, because I'm curious to see, what you're thinking in terms of the way the business has changed, because around this time, WCW, Turner specifically, of course, let's call it like it is. They realize, man, we're hemorrhaging cash. We got to start cutting back where we can and how we can. And one of the things they do is they cut down house shows. And you probably, based on what we learned last week, you start to see your income take a dip as a result of that, right?
Yes. And not happy. And like, I'll be damn, because I had a really good deal and making really good cash. We'll call it year 1. But knowing the things just weren't sustainable, and the craziness, it goes without saying, the craziness in creative and talent, we'll call it talent relations and creative. It was just, nobody was a boss. And, the bash at the beach in 2000, and it just, how are we going to keep rowing? And by cutting out live events, one of the first thoughts that came to my mind is, why would you do that? Just start putting the stars that are on TV, on the house shows, and scale back. We don't need to run Little Rock or Dallas back in those days. What was it called? Not American Airlines Arena, but why run the big arenas? Run the Springfield Massive. Run the smaller arenas with the talent that's on TV, but just completely pulling house shows. But remember, in 91, 92, when they shut down all house shows. I mean, so the ebb and flow of it. But again, a corporate decision. We're going to cut our nose off, spite our face, and we're going to pull out of live events. And how are our guys going to get in ring? How are they going to get better? Because we had a ton of guys that were young, that were some of them fresh out of the power plant, that needed reps. I was aware of that. It just, again, I thought it was a really bad decision. Obviously, it personally hurt my paycheck, but I didn't think that was anything close to the answer.
You were comfortable talking about money last week, so I guess I feel more comfortable bringing it up. But friends of the show, Chris Harrington, who's now doing big things with AEW, and Mr. David Bixenspan compiled all of the contract data that they could find from the WCW roster through all the legal proceedings. And they showed that your contract value for payroll in the year 2000 was $535,621. They showed you also got $4,351 in merch, for a total of $539,972. But it sounds like, based on
what year was that?
2000.
Okay.
So your total was $539, but that probably didn't include house show payoffs. Or would it have included house show payoffs?
That's because it was 350 and 450, or 350 and 400 guaranteed.
Okay, so maybe it does.
Yeah, I would assume yes.
Okay. So either way, though, we see that, your base is strong, but the way you really get that extra cheese on your Whopper, as JR likes to say, is through the house shows. And now those are gone.
And I'll say this, because last week's episode, it jarred, even more memory. I can remember thinking, if I can double because it's the conversation I had with Bill Bush, if I can double my guaranteed in year 1 and year 2, year 3, the psychology, okay, then I can get $750,000 plus my house show. That's what I was going to, and knowing what JR and Vince were willing to. Yes, that sounds right. I guess what I'm saying is, in my mind, I'm trying to validate. Yes, I think that included house show money.
Your income goal, though, you recall being 750. Like, if we put it all together, I want to get closer to that 750 number.
I want to get, yes, there was yes, correct.
A few years prior to this, I'm not saying in 2000, but we'll call it, 4 or 5 years prior to this, there was a phrase in the business known as sting money. That was like that 600,000-700,000, right? Correct. Sting money.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's everybody's goal. Let's get the sting money. So we mentioned Fusion Media makes the announcement on January 11th. A few days later, there's a big pay-per-view, WCW CN. We'll probably cover it in long form some other time. But the main event is Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, Sid Vicious, and Road Warrior Animal is the big surprise. So he's last to the ring. Unfortunately, that's when Sid Vicious had a horrific incident where he destroyed his leg live on pay-per-view. When the big payoff was Road Warrior Animal, did you think, hey, this is a shot in the arm, or hey, that was a good idea 10 years ago? I don't know that it's a big draw and a big surprise now. Or did you feel like, hey man, they just bought Eric Bischoff's coming back, Road Warrior's here, I'm in the main event, maybe we're going to pull the nose up on this thing?
I was a Road Warrior fan from way back.
Everybody was.
And I didn't like the vibe of him being not so much a mystery, but seeing a Road Warrior with a sheet over his head and covered up didn't do much for me.
It was silly.
There was just, again, one of those things that maybe in a booking room make Road Warrior Animal the surprise, but the actual execution, and he's not coming through with the shoulder pads, and oh my God, there's Joe, there's Animal. It was just another proverbial, as they say, fart in church.
So after that, we're going to the next pay-per-view, and we're marching towards Super Brawl Revenge. You're going to be working a program with Diamond Dallas Page. Is your political brain at all thinking, well, now this might be a good thing? I'm working with Dallas. We all know that Dallas is pals with Eric. That can't be a bad thing to be working with Diamond Dallas Page. Or was that even on your radar at that point?
Well, when you think about, you just said the prior month was, and we won't get into the leg break today, thank goodness. God. Yeah. But me and DDP had worked a year prior to that, and really enjoyed it. And I can remember, and I just talked to Alice a week ago. We always creatively, we always outside, but we got along. He showed up to work always, and I did too.
Yeah.
And so during this time, and then that was approached, we didn't really have any storylines going on, neither one of us. So us getting put together, quote unquote, it's the night off.
Yeah.
But put it in context with him being friends with Eric, I thought to myself, yep, Jeff's the workhorse. I'll get this job done. We'll go out and have some fun. I enjoyed it.